Hi, it's Kristen and it's time for another book haul. But these are all books I got either for free or in charity shops. So I feel like that makes it slightly more okay. So yes, there are sort of three parts to this. First is a book that I got from work. It was donated to us, but we don't sell books at fairs and things when we do sales. People never buy books, so I made a little donation and I took it for myself. Next up are books I bought in charity shops. I'm trying to be better about shopping in charity shops, and if I know that I'm not going to read a book straight away and it's a fairly popular book that's ending up on a lot of like bestsellers and stuff, to hold off on buying it and check charity shops instead, because you never know what you might find. And then the last part is books given to me by my sister's friend. She was doing a big clear out of her house in general, which involved her bookshelves, and she sent my sister a list of books because my sister loves reading, and said, do you or anyone you know want anything from this list? And so my sister immediately showed me as well, and we went through and we picked a few things off each and then divvied them up between us. So first of all, let's go for the book I got from work, and that is John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. I already own a copy of this from school. I never studied it. My sister did, and I think I've ended up with her copy because she didn't really like it. I didn't really like it either, but I've kept it. But this copy is much nicer than the one I have. So, and it's much smaller to fit on my shelves. So I think I'm going to get rid of the old copy and keep this one. And I might give this a reread because the last time I read it was like 10 years ago, I think. But this is about George and Lenny, who are sort of drifters, and they end up on like a farm while trying to find somewhere of their own, and Lenny gets them both into some trouble with sort of disastrous consequences. It's a classic. Next up, I'm going to do charity shop finds. So these, I found all of these when shopping with my friend. The first three, there's an amazing charity shop that's absolutely huge, sort of nearish to us. We drove there on our second trip there, but we actually walked there on our first trip, and it wasn't that bad. We did so much walking that day. We hit about 9 charity shops during the day. We were looking for something that she could wear for a Halloween costume, so I got these back in October. Might have actually been end of September, but I found well, first of all, I spotted Bitter Blue by Kristen Cashore. This is the third book in the Graceling trilogy, and then nearby it I noticed Fire, which is the second book, and I was like, what a shame they don't have the fourth or the first. And then I spotted the first. They did not have the fourth, so I picked up Graceling, Fire and Bitter Blue, all by Kristen Cashore. I own these. I do own these. I've owned them for years. I got them all when they like first came out, and I love this series. But these covers is how they brought out the fourth book. They do not have a matching cover for the set I have for the fourth book. And so I've been wanting to get them. I was like, I can't justify buying full price copies of books I already have just because they have different covers. And then I saw these for 95p each. So for less than £3, I got this whole trilogy, and it's in like perfect condition. There's no even like breaks in the spine. There's no dog-eared pages. They're really floppy and readable. So I'm so happy to have these, and then I can get the fourth book and finally read it. The first book, Graceling, is about a woman called Katza, and some people in her world have graces, which mean that they're particularly good at doing a certain thing. And Katz has found that her grace is that she's incredible at fighting and killing. And so her uncle, I believe it is, sort of exploits that and uses that. But she doesn't want to be doing this with her life, and she meets a prince from a far off land, and they go on this journey together to look into a mysterious, dangerous figure that they've heard about. And I love this book. I loved the second book, which is a prequel, and then the third book is my least favourite, but I still really liked it, and that's a sequel to Graceling. So chronologically it goes Fire, Graceling, Bitterblue, but in terms of the way they were published, and I would say the way to read them is Graceling, then Fire, then Bitterblue. Fire is about a woman who is like so beautiful. There are creatures in her world who are so beautiful and like wild colours and stuff that they're incredible to look at, and people sort of lose control or become obsessed with them. And Fire is a woman, a young woman who has that power, and she has this incredible hair, and so it's about her coming to terms with her ability, and should she see it as a curse or should she use it, and she gets involved with a prince and a kingdom, and trying to right some wrongs while everyone sort of distrusts her, but she's trying to help them. And then Bitterblue is about a character who appears in Graceling but grown up, and she has to deal with ruling a kingdom, queendom, I guess. But I won't talk about this too much because it would give away stuff from Graceling. But I'm so happy to have all of these. Then we went to another charity shop in that same day, and I saw Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl by Andrea Lawler. I've heard about this and always thought it sounded really interesting, so I'm just going to read the blurb. It says it's 1993 and Paul Polydorus tends bar at the only gay club in a university town thrumming with politics and partying, but Paul's also got a secret. He's a shapeshifter. He transforms his body and his gender at will in search for belonging and love that travels across America from Iowa to San Francisco. And this just sounded so interesting to me. I love that it's about like shapeshifting. I think that's so interesting and unique. I've not read many stories about shapeshifters that aren't like explicitly paranormal sci-fi, whereas this is, but it's also just supposed to be about Paul's life and sexuality and love and stuff, and I think that sounds great, and I'm always here for more queer books, so I'm excited to get to this one. And saw this for very cheap, and so I had to pick it up. And then lastly, from charity shop, this was on another day that we went, but it was back in the first charity shop that I found the Graceling trilogy in, and it's Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This I've heard so many things about. I've heard that it's so sad, so devastating. It's about a cafe where you can time travel, but you can only travel in the past, I think, to that cafe, and you only have the amount of time before your coffee gets cold to be in the past. And so I think it's just about people reminiscing, thinking about past friendships and loves and family and things like that. I'm assuming it's going to be a bit about grief. but I'm also trying to read more translated fiction next year, I think, and this is a very short one. I've heard nothing but good things, and when I saw it there in this beautiful, like, shiny edition, I couldn't pass it up. So yes, I got that as well. So that is everything for the charity shops. These ones were given to me by my sister's friend very kindly. I sort of just took anything that sounded remotely interesting to me. She has some more books for us that she boxed up and then couldn't find. So when she finds them, I'll do another haul at some point. First up, we have Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. So this is set in 1596, and I believe it's based on Shakespeare's son, but I think they've like changed the names and like changed things, so it's a fictionalized version of that. It says, on a summer's day in 1596, a young girl in Stratford-upon-Avon takes to her bed with a sudden fever. Her twin brother Hamnet searches everywhere for help. Why is nobody at home? Their mother Agnes is over a mile away in the garden where she grows medicinal herbs. Their father's working in London. Neither parent knows that Hamnet will not survive the week. This is a novel inspired by the son of a famous playwright, a boy whose life had been all but forgotten, but whose name was given to one of the most celebrated plays ever. I've heard great things. This was the winner of the Women's Prize for Fiction 2020, and I think I would like to go back through the previous Women's Prize winners and try to read some of them. Maggie O'Farrell is a sort of lauded author, and I've heard very good but sad things about this, and I just thought it sounded interesting. Then we have Heatwave by Victor Justin. This one interested me. I did not realise it was so short. But this one, we looked it up. I saw that it sounded familiar. We looked it up and I was immediately like, yes, I want that, based just on this. It is the end of August and the long summer holidays are drawing to a close. 17-year-old Leonard is on a camping holiday with his family in the south of France. Awkward and ill at ease, he is an outsider who creeps away from parties unnoticed after a couple of drinks. On the final Friday of the trip, unable to sleep, Leonard goes for a walk and sees one of the boys from the campsite, Oscar, hanging from the rope of the playground swing. Leonard watches as the rope slowly strangles Oscar. Then, unable to think straight, he buries the body in the sand and returns to his tent. Next day is the hottest in 17 years. Disoriented by the oppressive heat and distracted by his desire for a girl named Luce, Leonard spends the ensuing hours trying not to unravel. That sounded really intriguing to me, and as well, with it being such a short book, I think this could be really gripping and just an interesting little read. But I do feel like I need to hold off on it and read it in the summer, potentially when it's hotter, so I can like fully bathe in the atmosphere of it. But yeah, it just sounded like an odd story and immediately has me wanting to know what the heck is going on. So yes, we've got that. Then we have The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. This is the sequel to The Thursday Murder Club, which I read last year. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it well enough, and I read it while I had COVID. But it had such short chapters that actually it kept me going. My attention span was like gone when I had COVID. It was just like the hottest week of the year, and I was just shut in my room, sweating and ill, and felt so horrible. But it was like an interesting enough mystery to keep me going, and the chapters were so short that it kept me reading. So I'm sort of hoping this will be the same, like cozy mystery vibes. It's about a group of elderly people who live in like an old people's retirement village kind of setup, and they all get together on Thursdays to look at old police files and cases and try and solve murders. And then in the first book they found themselves actively involved by a murder that happened in the area. So this one It says Elizabeth, who's a character in the first book, who's an old ex-police officer, receives a letter from an old colleague who she has a long history with. He's being hunted and he needs her help. So she then enlists the help of the Thursday Murder Club. But yeah, it's a fun, easy thing. I sort of thought, I read the first book, why not get the second book if it's free, you know? Next up we have Shuggy Bane by Douglas Stewart. This is about a young boy who, it's just, I think, his life, and he is working class, I believe, and dealing with that, and then having a mother who is, I believe, an alcoholic, and so she tries to be there for him but isn't, and there's a lot of turmoil within the family, and it's just about Shuggy's life and the struggles and horrible things that he goes through. I know that this is not going to be a fun read. I've heard that it's one of those very, very sad books, but it won the 2020 Booker Prize, and I've heard just such good, heart-wrenching things about it. I thought I'd give it a go. Every now and then I do just like a sad book to, you know, stab me in the heart. So I picked up this. Lastly, we have Happy Hour by Marlo Granados. This one I remember thinking sounded interesting, but I can't remember what it's about now. Isa Epley, 21 years old, is already wise enough to understand the purpose of life is the pursuit of pleasure. She arrives in New York with her newly blonde best friend looking for adventure. They have little money, but that's hardly going to stop them. By day, the girls sell clothes on a market stall, pinching pennies for their sublet. But by night, they weave between Brooklyn, Upper East Side, and the Hamptons among a rotating cast of celebrities, artists, internet entrepreneurs, stuffy intellectuals, and bad-mannered grifters. So this one I remember now. I just love books about like messy young women who are just struggling and trying to make it through like their early 20s. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I said this before, but I don't know what that says about me personally. But yeah, I just love books about young women living their lives and struggling, but finding moments of like happiness and stuff like that. And this sounds exactly like it will be like that. So yes, I've got this as well. So that was everything. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books from my sister's friend, 5 books from charity shops, and then 1 book bought with a small donation from work. So in total, 11 books, which is quite a lot to add to my shelves, I now realise. But considering, I got 5 of those for free, and the other 6 came to a total of about £6. Like, that's fantastic. It was, I think less than £1 for each book, so no more than £6 for 6 books is incredible. But yes, my aim for next year is to buy more books from charity shops, to try and hold off on buying books I know I'm not going to immediately read, because you never know what you might find in a charity shop. These were all really good finds. They were, books I already owned but sort of wanted new covers for. I found them, like the full original trilogy. A book I'd been interested in but unsure about, but if it's, only like 90p, I don't feel bad about buying it. Alternatively, buying it for like $8.99. And then another book that I'd heard so much about, but always sort of held up on buying it because it was a shorter one. And I always thought I could get it from the library, but then I've never seen it in the library, and then I saw it in a charity shop for 95p. So, charity shops, man. They're gonna be my go-to in 2023. I'm gonna make 2023 the year of the charity shop for me, I think. Yes, that is everything. Let me know if you read any of these and what you thought, if you thought positively, hopefully. And yeah, I will see you soon with another video that's hopefully not a book haul. Bye.